finish off tonight, we should probably talk about the upcoming race in Brazil next weekend.
Brazil.
Amazing track, steeped in history, always a fantastic turnout. I think the only real talking point of the Formula One Championship that's left for me personally is the battle between Ferrari and Mercedes. And we've seen in recent races that there's probably been, I think it's fair to say, a tipping of the scales now with the level of competitiveness between the two cars. Does that continue in Brazil? Is Ferrari in any way able to counteract this current trend with, really no ability to develop the car any further? And what do they have to do? Is it, in the last couple of races, I wouldn't say it's so much that they've been, making mistakes. It's more that they just, don't have the level of performance that we're seeing out of Mercedes right now.
I want to say, well, they've both got very different strengths and weaknesses. I feel like Mercedes' strength is just operational prowess and maximizing, every result. And I feel like Ferrari's strength is the actual engineering of that car at most events. It seems to just be a faster car most of the time. They're two very different challenges that you have to grapple with. Like if the Ferrari, if the track suits the Ferrari, no matter how well Mercedes execute, if Ferrari execute well, they're gonna finish on top of them. Pardon me, but I suppose it's going to be a matter of how much the Ferrari want it. How eager are they to fight for that second place? I mean, realistically, it doesn't change much because they haven't won the championship. But I feel like for me, he will tell me a lot about the fight of Mercedes and also the readiness of Ferrari to, just finish the season strong. Because regardless of how this season finishes, I guarantee whichever team finishes ahead of the other is going to carry a lot of goodwill and momentum into the next season. And I feel like it's in Ferrari's best interest to stamp that down, and the ball is in their court to do that. But Mercedes is coming quick and real quick, and they're scoring good points with both cars, which is something that Ferrari have consistently not done all year. That's been their Achilles heel. And I would say realistically, if Mercedes finished second this season, after the start of the season they had, that is a massive feat.
Yeah,
that is probably a bigger feat than than Red Bull winning the championship. Like if you think about the scale of where they've come from the start of the year and the time that they've had to amass from behind those cars, that's a massive result.
Another talking point that seems to be firming up over the last fortnight has been the fact that Mick Schumacher might very well be off the grid next year. It looks like a reality. I wouldn't say that he's had the most underwhelming season. He's definitely had a few crashes. It seems like the relationship between himself and particularly Gene Haas and Gunther Steiner has somewhat soured. What do you make of the development? Is it warranted? Will he find his way back on a Formula One grid now that he's going to be leaving it?
I think he definitely has a chance to find his way back just through the name itself. I think he will have to strategically put himself in the best teams possible and really jockey for the best seats possible when they become available. I don't feel sorry for him, so I still think that realistically it's not. He has had a decent chance and he hasn't set the world on fire. Realistically, you could make an argument either way, and I could go, yeah, that's a fair point. So I'm not feeling like disappointed. Same sort of as the same feeling I have for Danny Rick. It's like, okay, this is the way that the cookie is crumbled. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to move on? If I was Mick, I would just probably try and find your, just fall in love with the sport again. Maybe take a year and do some racing that really interests you and excites you, rather than like, just sit as a test drive. I don't like it when they just sit as a test driver for a year. You can test drive and still do something else. And I think it says a lot about, the character of a driver when you go and do something else in that year. Because I think it shows that you just want, you
To
just
race.
want to race.
Albon and
There's no
DTM, maybe like that.
Go DTM, go WEC. We're talking about WEC. Try and get into a WEC team. There's going to be a lot of seats up for grabs. Go if you want to do a limited IndyCar championship and there was a seat available, do that. There's lots. If you put the word out that you're looking to do something, people are going to come. Like 100% people are going to come for the Schumacher name. So yeah, just if you haven't got a seat, try and position yourself as best as possible, and may have a contingency plan that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I mean, realistically, how cool would it be if he was involved in the Ferrari WEC team next year, which I don't think would happen, but something like that I think would be amazing.
Yeah,
very cool.
Well, also with the news that Daniel Ricciardo was approached to run in IndyCar next year, and he kind of said, "No, he's scared of ovals." I mean, while I understand, wouldn't say that I necessarily completely understand the hesitancy of these drivers to race in America. We've obviously seen a fair share of drivers from DTM from all over the world now going into IndyCar to race. I don't think that Ricciardo being a test driver next year gets him back into the sport. So I agree with your sentiment that for these drivers that want to, or not want to, but find their way out of the sport, they should be actively trying to get back in. And I think there's no better way to do it than to stay relevant than to keep racing. Well, if they want to, but I don't know.
Like Danny Rick and Mick Schumacher are at totally different stages of their racing careers. Like that's another
yeah, they
thing.
are, but they also, if they also both want to get back into the sport, and the only way that you can stay relevant is to continue to put yourself in the shop window. And I think that's consistent whether you have been racing for 10 years or whether you've been racing for 2 years. So if you want to remain that consistent, that kind of relevant, you've got to be showing off your exploits, I think.
I don't think that there is a way back into the sport unless you're a world champion or you're very strongly aligned with what, like Red Bull or Mercedes in their junior programs. Other than that, I don't think there is really a way back there's not really a way back for anyone, but without those connections, I don't think there really is a way back. So I probably would be looking for a contingency anyway.
Do you have any just to finish, do you have any hot takes, predictions
from this week?
Anything? Yeah.
I just wanted to mention how much I enjoyed the hype up NASCAR got last week from that Ross Chastain making it into the final four. I mean, I've not given a thought to NASCAR probably over the last 18 months, probably through no fault of its own, rather than I'm just too busy. But I thought, number one, it was such a cool moment looking as an outsider, sort of to see a motorsport get a massive pickup over a weekend for something that was so outrageous but cool at the same time. And I feel like every motorsport needs a moment like that every once in a while, just to let to be able to show sort of lay people or people who are not in the sport something cool that they haven't seen before. And I think that really happened last week.
So for anyone who hasn't seen it, we had a driver that was fighting to get into the top 4 in the championship in the second last race. He needed to get into 5th position to accumulate enough points to get into the top 4. And why that's relevant is because only the top 4 drivers in the points going into the last race have a chance to fight for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. And on the last lap, I think Chastain needed 4 or 5 positions. And rather than racing around the oval, which was quite a short, I think it was a half a mile track, rather than kind of just following the status quo and trying to make an impossible amount of moves on the last lap, he essentially just put it into top gear, and drove it around the wall at top speed and managed to get in like that. So if you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. It's quite amazing. Did get some mixed reviews. It did seem like a video game kind of maneuver.
Just look up
But-
Ross Chastain, Martinsville 2022.
Mm.
I've
Love it
watched
or-
it probably 100 times.
Love it or hate it, I guess winning's winning, right?
Yeah, I just thought it was a cool moment for motorsport fans to see something totally different. And I got reaction, and I was asking people about it and what they thought of it, and no one told me that they didn't think it was cool.
Well, there's definitely some negative rhetoric regarding it around.
I think
in
anyone
the
involved in the
NASCAR
sport
community,
at a high
yeah.
level, just like in any sport, would be somewhat against it. Probably the same thing as Hamilton versus Verstappen last lap of the championship last year. Same kind of idea. When you're inside the sport, it's very inside baseball. You probably don't like it as much. But from the outside looking in, I think you can drum up a lot of positive vibes and just like a good look for the sport in terms of something that's totally different. And I thought, and that was my thought of the week. I just think without over engineering it, every sport needs to, have a chance to create moments like that.
I think we'll leave it there.